Good morning, everyone. This is Andy. I am the prop chef here at Two Perspective Studios, and this is my segment of Craft Around the Clock. I'm going to attempt to entertain you for the next 45 minutes or so. I am a realistic fake food prop maker, which means I create replicas of real foods and try and make them, I do it in fake and try and make them look as real as possible. Sometimes I even scent them to accentuate the look, and sometimes if something smells as good as it looks, you think it's real. So today I'm going to be working on, and this is something new, this is a new technique that I haven't done before. So I'm sort of working out the kinks with this one. Good morning, Tracy. This is going to be a quiche, sort of a spinach, bacon, and bell pepper with cheese, of course, realistic style quiche. Now, I have done this one, like I said, with a new technique that I haven't tried before. I just did this for the first time this morning, and it came out better than I expected. So I'm just going to go with it and show you what I did here to be able to remove the slice. Sometimes I sell to a lot of food photographers and home stagers, TV and movie people buy my props, and restaurants and things like that who want to recreate something that they have in stock, and sometimes they'll ask me, they'll send me a picture and they'll say, can you make this? And I do my best. So it's hard to make things like this that you can actually take a piece out of and have your piece look really good when you pull it out. I've done some of these tart shell style pies before, and I've just used the Model Magic clay and put like a topper of an acrylic medium that doesn't get super hard, not like a resin or anything. I did a blueberry tart that had the acrylic medium on the top of it for the blueberry, and then it was more like a cheesecakey sort of thing underneath that was just the Model Magic clay. So it was easy when it dried to remove the slice and have it still look realistic. But in most cases, it's more difficult and you have to build it structurally a little bit different. I've learned a new technique that I'm going to share here that uses wax instead of clays, because certain waxes don't get ultra hard even when they dry. This is called a jelly wax. It's a clear, it looks like clear jello almost. Good morning, everyone. I'm having trouble seeing the comments over there. I don't have my right glasses on, so if I'm missing anybody, I apologize. But good morning to all and happy Monday. I have some stuff on my desk here. I don't have a portable burner because I don't usually cook things in the studio. I sort of made a makeshift. I've got some Sterno here. I'm going to light this up. I have melted my wax before I started, but because it's so cold in here, it's sort of congealing back up. But this is just a clear jelly wax. Now this is sort of half melted, but it doesn't look much different than this when you get it. I ordered mine from Amazon. It's not difficult to get. Candle makers use it for the clear candles or the semi-translucent candles. I think they burn a little bit differently. I don't know too much about it other than it's a wax polymer combined with some sort of a resin. Not exactly sure what kind of resin is in it, but that's what I understand that this mixture is made out of. It's like a clear jello that comes in bags. And you can get it in several different places. Like I said, I got mine on Amazon. All I did, I bought a couple of pots to use just for my studio purposes. Oh, there's a little smoke there. I hope I don't put off my smoke detector. I have a couple of pots that I just use in the studio. I do not use this for food. I try and be very careful with my utensils. I have sets of utensils that are just for studio use. I'm sorry about my dog. I don't know why he's barking. I'm going to have to let this melt, but that's okay because we have some time and I need to show you what I did up to this point. So I'm just going to let that do its thing. I have a tart shell tart maker with a removable bottom. I find these pretty helpful when I'm working with clays and different things, salt dough, things like that. It's just a whole lot easier to be able to pop out your piece with a removable bottom, especially since this is not silicone. Most of the molds that I use for things, I always try and buy silicone because things release from it way quicker and easier than anything like this. Especially if you're pouring resin or anything like that. You can't pour it into a metal pan like this. You just ruin the pan. It won't ever come out. But for having the clays and salt doughs, having this removable piece on the bottom is really very handy. I do use Model Magic. Let me move this. This is my... I'm going to put that here for just a second. I don't have enough room on my desk today. I do use Model Magic for most of the things that I do have some form of Model Magic in them. This, I did use Model Magic for the crust. Get that out of there. So I have one that has been drying since yesterday. This one, like I said, I molded both of these in the pan. I will set them under a fan for about an hour until they harden up just a little bit, and then I'll pop that bottom out and I'll take these and I'll set them on a rack and I'll just let them air dry for about, well, I let these dry overnight, so about 16, 18 hours, something like that. And it's pretty hard. I mean, it's not movable hardly at all. But what I did, and I think you can probably see the difference in the colorations here. This is plain Model Magic, and this one I have tinted. And I do that with a lot of my crusts. I'll tint them ahead of time. I guess I should preface this by saying everything in my bag over here has already been pre-conditioned, which means I have manipulated this clay. I know it's breaking now, but it's just because it's cold in here. I have conditioned my clay for between 8 and 10 minutes normally. Model Magic takes a lot of conditioning. I will roll it on my table surface. You have to really warm it up and stretch it out until you can pull it like taffy and it doesn't break. That's when you know you've got it conditioned enough and it's not going to crack on you when it dries. Model Magic can be a little bit fickle. So once you have your clay conditioned, you can actually tint your color to whatever you want your crust to look like. Typically I'll use a yellow ochre to color this, but because this was a quiche and I wanted to start with a lighter crust, I went with this is a Naples yellow hue. This is just an acrylic paint by the Mead & Company. I like these because they have these little squisher tips on them. You know, you can just pour it out, whatever that's called. I'll just put a little bit of paint in there, maybe like 2 peas, about the size of a pea for something like this. Now this is not enough clay to do this tart shell. I actually used 8 full ounces, which is 1 whole bag of Model Magic, to do this tart shell. I want it fairly thick on the bottom because I ship my items. If you're just doing something like this for yourself or for a gift and it doesn't have to be shipped, especially if you're going to glue it onto a platter or something like that. You don't have to make your bottom crust as thick as I did, but I tried to make my bottom crust and my sides fairly thick for this because I know I'm going to be shipping it and I'm not going to be gluing it onto any hard surface. So it's just going to have a board under it. I'll put some wrap around it and away it goes. So I need to make sure that my clay is thick enough and stable enough to handle all of that. So once you get all your paint worked in, you have a nice tinted piece of crust that you can manipulate into the pan. Like I said, this one is not big enough to make the crust. But you would just put it in here and smooth out your bottom and put it up against the sides and so forth. Manipulate your whole crust around. Leave it, you can leave it like this overnight and then just pop it out the next morning, or what I do to speed up my process is I just put it in front of a fan for about an hour and then I can pop it out and it's not going to lose shape. And Model Magic kind of keeps its shape anyway, it's pretty good about that. But I give it about an hour under the fan and then I'll dry it the rest of the way overnight on a rack. Then I go ahead and proceed with my project. So that's how I did the crust. Put that up here. Okay. Like I said, I have way too much on my desk today, so if I make a mess with this, which I did with my apron already, I think I leaned into my paint. That's okay. It just gives me more color on a Monday, right? Everybody needs a little more color. I have these. I make a lot of pizzas for people. These are 10-inch pizza pans, and I have a 9-inch tart pan. I thought this would be a good surface to use. Just something hard to put this on, to where I was actually afraid when I did it the first time that the wax might melt the clay. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, so I had to sort of do a test. So I put it on this pizza pan, but it did not. This, and you can see this is very flexible. I can squish it, but my bottom crust is still intact. Now, I did not paint this yet. I usually do that last when I'm making these. But I did, for the piece that I cut out of it, I did shade the sides, and I shaded the middle area to where it looks cooked all the way through. I made pretend paint streaks where the spinach and so forth would go through there. All you have to do is create the illusion that it's what the person looking at it, it's what they would want to see if they were looking at a quiche. They can look at it and say, oh, I know. I had my heating and cooling guy here this morning, and he looked at it and he said, you making a pie today on your live? And I said, well, actually, it's a quiche. And he said, oh, quiche, I know what that is. That's an egg pie, isn't it? I said, yes, it is. So egg pie is what we're making here. But you just want to make sure that when you're finished, someone's eye is going to look at it and they're going to say, that's a quiche, or that's one of those egg pies. Either way, you know you've done your job correctly. So, just trying to get this melted back down again. I left it slightly chunky the last time just because I wanted to make sure I had enough texture in this. So, to get that 3D look on there and those humps and bumps, I'm using some rice paper. This is actually some mulberry paper. It has all those, all that different texture in there. It's pretty cool. This is a printable rice paper. You can find these on Amazon. Not hard to find at all. Plain rice papers. The beauty of rice paper, if anybody decoupages knows, that when you pull it, you have those sort of hairy areas that, you know, it's never like a clean cut unless you cut it with scissors. If you tear it, you always have that hairy texture, just, you know, little look to it that's it's what rice paper does. You know, you do it with napkins too. If you use a water pen and pull your napkin, you get that little frayed edge. So that's what I'm going to do on here, because the top of this rice paper looks a lot like the top of a quiche, only it's a different color. So I do not own any oil-based pigments, which is what you need to put colorant in this jelly wax. I don't own any oil-based anything. All my stuff is water-based. So I had to sort of improvise. I'm going to move this guy. Move this over here so you can see it better. Move this guy over here. So I had to improvise on the color situation. Now, for this one that I did, I painted a yellow ochre, O-C-R-E. It's a professional paint color. It's sort of a combination between almost like a mustardy yellow and a pinch of brown sort of thing. I thought about the crayon thing, Jamie, but I wasn't sure if that would work with this jelly wax. My AI robot man told me not to use crayon. And I don't have any crayons anyway. I don't have any small children around in my life anymore. I don't have crayons. So, like I said, I just improvised this and it worked out okay. So I have the Naples yellow, and I put the ochre in this one, and I felt like I actually had to go over the top of this one with some yellow paint to brighten it up. It was too dull. So I'm going to stay away from the ochre this time, and I'm going to put a little bit, I think this is almost empty. Let me see if I can get enough out of here to do this. This is a cadmium yellow medium. It's a fairly brightly pigmented yellow. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of this Naples yellow, which is a very soft pale yellow. And I'm going to do a little bit of a mixture on it and see if it'll brighten it up better. Because this jelly wax is crystal clear, I figured if I colored the bottom of the pie shell, it would show through to the top in a sort of a pleasing way and make it look like the wax was colored. So I'm going to sort of mix these colors together and paint all around the bottom here. I'm not going to go up on the top of the crust because that has to have the baked look. But I'm going to make this a nice bright yellow to where it shows through that jelly wax. Now this is the first time, I just said I wasn't going to do that. That's okay, we'll paint over it. This is the first time I've ever experimented with jelly wax. I've actually had a whole box full sitting on my shelf for almost a year now, and haven't done anything with it until I saw where a couple of prop masters had made some realistic quiche for a theater presentation that they were working on, and they used jelly wax. And I thought, well, that's interesting. We can try that. So here we are. I love quiche. I am an egg person in general. I don't know if you guys like quiche. Some people don't like eggs at all. I'm an egg fanatic. I adore eggs. So quiche has cheese in it. So, you know, eggs and cheese, that's just perfect. You made the baked potato, Jamie? That's awesome. I hope it came out good. We made some baked potatoes on a live the other day using brown paper napkins for the outside of the potato peel, and it came out beautiful. Alright, our wax is melted. So I'm going to get some, let's see, I think I'm going to get some paint, because I didn't do this the first time, but I think I'm going to do it this time. I'm going to put some paint on my rice paper before I tear it. And I may try and get just a little bit of this yellow. I don't want it too bright because quiche is not like ultra bright. Oh, that was a lot. That may have been more than I wanted. But we can probably fix that. Get another towel here. So I'm just going to sort of slop this paint on here. Move that over. Now I'm being extraordinarily messy today. But when I'm working on something for the first time, that's usually what happens. I make a lot of mess. Alright, I'm going to have to get my sterno out and put this fire out without burning my gloves. Where is my... There we go. Fire is out. So our wax is completely melted. Now what the prop master did in her, I watched a Zoom meeting where she told about it. She put some yellow and white colorant in the wax to make it more egg-like, and then they put shreds of the paper over the top. They just painted on their spinach and peppers and their bacon. I actually used, I'm not sure if you can see, I think you can, mine are 3D. I made some bacon pieces, and I have some in my little cup here. This is some glass pieces that I had. They are sort of butterscotch color, but I put them in a cup just like this, and I took a toothpick and I took some, for my bacon color I use burnt sienna, and then I use a burnt umber over the top of it. That's how I make my bacon. I have some videos on my YouTube if you want to watch me do real bacon and get the color if you ever want to do bacon. But I just used these glass chunks because I knew they wouldn't react to the wax. So I just took a toothpick and I swirled some paint around with these glass pieces, and then I spread them out on a piece of parchment paper and hit them with the hairdryer until they were dry. So that's how I made these fake bacon pieces. I took some foam clay and I chopped up some small, this is just red foam clay, which I may go over with a little bit darker red. I feel like this is like a fire engine red, like a strawberry red, and I'm not sure if that's really a good bell pepper color, but I just rolled out some pieces of foam clay, and then I pressed them into little pillow squares to simulate chopped bell pepper. For the spinach, I used some green paint on the extra piece of this. This is what I did initially. I colored some of the rice paper in 2 different colors and then shredded it to look like spinach and pepper. The pepper I wasn't crazy about. That's why I'm switching over to the clay. But the spinach I think I'm going to stick with. Now I don't want this to dry all the way. I was just waiting for this wax to cool slightly, which I think we're good. I maybe should have dried that slightly, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to put this here. I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So this is just our melted wax. I'm going to very slowly pour this into my shell. I know this hardens up very quickly. I've probably heated up 2 pots of wax 10 times this morning just doing this. That's right, you can never go wrong with eggs and cheese. I totally agree. So the other one I used like 90% of what was in the bag, and I think they're 4-ounce portions, I believe. I think the one that I bought was 4-ounce portions that came in the bag from the Amazon supplier. I hope I didn't make this too much. I don't want it to spill over. Looks like my shell is a little lopsided, so I'm going to put a little piece there to hold it up until the jelly wax starts to congeal. So then I'm just going to take this in pieces. I'm just going to shred it off of there and lay it on top. I'm going to try not to take too big of a piece, but it's hard because this is sticking to my gloves. I'm just going to lay them in here. Oh my. And this is sort of a everyday thing for me. I make mess after mess, and half the time I don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes it comes out good and sometimes it doesn't. Depends on what I'm trying. I'm not laying these over the top of one another yet. I'm just trying to get it in one layer. And then I'll build a little on top of it to make those different textures. This is sort of sticky. And it's hot. You have to be careful not to stick your finger down in that wax. That would not be any fun. Make sure I've got this to where it's going to dry. I have to fold this over just one more time. There we go. Trying not to spill it over. For whatever reason, something isn't right here. I'm going to put a few, okay, they might be sinking too much yet. Maybe not. I don't want them to sink all the way down. The other ones actually were an afterthought, and I used super glue. All right, let me continue on with the papers. I have some plain papers here. I'm going to put those on as well. You can paint, I put plain paper on the first one and I just painted over it. No, Susan, my brain never stops. Sometimes I get up in the middle of the night and I have to write things down that I've been dreaming about. goodness. I'm glad I have a glove on. I think I am anyway. If the hot wax burns through my glove, I think I'm going to regret having a glove on. I think this stuff might be worse than hot glue. Okay, some of my bacon sunk to the bottom, so my wax is not congealed enough to hold the bacon. I think there's probably a fine line in doing the hot wax. Like I said, this is really the first time I have ever worked with it, so I wasn't sure exactly what to expect. But my first one came out pretty decently. I had to manipulate it a lot, but it still came out better than I thought. I am taking some of these now and doing a little crinkle wrinkle. That's an industry term. I'm just kidding. I'm sort of crinkle crumpling some of them so that it'll give it a little more texture. Because you know, when quiche bakes, eggs do their thing, and eggs crinkle, crumple, kind of like the scrambled egg deal. I mean, they don't stay smooth. Egg whites will stay smooth, but egg yolk likes to sort of crinkle and crumple around. And that's a good thing. I have a little more of this yellow here. I've almost got most of the surface covered. There's a little bit on the edges that I'm going to have to go back over with small pieces. The main thing is trying to get it all stuck on there as best you can before you lose the sticky of the hot wax. Now there are some pieces in here, and I'm going to stick some of these peppers, fake peppers, clay peppers, in here. I'm just going to give them a little shove to make sure that they go down into that wax. And then I'm going to get some more of my bacon pieces, and I'm going to get those in here. Any of the little spots that don't have the paper on it, I'll be able to push. That's already congealed through. All right. So I'm going to take some of this green, because that's our spinach. I'm going to try and get that in there in different places and sort of just stick it down in there. Anywhere that has a little space. Now I went over the top with some glaze, and anything that wasn't completely adhered after I put the glaze on it, it was stuck. So you don't have to panic. Like, I'm kind of panicking right now. You don't have to panic, because you can stick it down after the fact with just some glaze or some Mod Podge, anything like that. You can stick your little spinach. I'm going to lay some right on the top. Let's see. Okay, I have a couple more pieces here. One there. And we can make a little bit more for our slice, But I'm not sure that this is actually going to be cool enough for me to take the slice out of it while we're live, because I've only got 10 minutes. And I don't think this is going to cool down enough, so I may just have to give an explanation for that. I'm just going to take some more of these bacon bits and put them around. Try and get them down in the jelly. The top has definitely congealed. I can touch it. It's hot, but it's not burning hot anymore. So it's definitely worked itself through. But I can push some of this fake bacon down in it. I'm still not burning myself, so that's good. So I guess it does cool down pretty rapidly. My house is cold today, so that may be another reason why. See if I can get that over there. Okay. So then what I did after I got that done, I went over it with some more colorant on the top of this one. But that's mainly because I had the ochre color on the bottom and not that bright yellow. The yellow color has made a huge difference in this. It looks much more natural, more like an actual quiche. So it is a little bit brighter than my first one, but I like this one better. That was what I wanted in the first place. So definitely, if you're not using a colorant in your wax, definitely paint the inside with yellow. This is my yellow ochre paint. This is the Master's Touch one. You can get this one at Hobby Lobby. Lots of companies make yellow ochre. I use Liquitex for a lot of my paints on things. I like the brand. It's a good brand, and it goes a long way. It's not, craft paint has some water added to it, and it goes a little farther. It's, I can't say it goes farther. It's watered down is what it is. I don't use a lot of craft paint on these things. I like the thicker professional paints for stuff. So I can't lift up because this is still, I mean, I can lift it, but I guess I could do it that way. I need to take this ochre with just sort of a dry brush. Doesn't have a lot of water in it. So I can push that into the jelly. I'm just going right along, and I'm going to paint, getting right in those grooves, but I'm dry brushing. I'm not putting a lot of water on this. So I'm just going to put a coat of the yellow ochre on here. I'm going to set that back down on here. And I'm just going to do like so. If there's a little bit of the white space on the tops that doesn't get covered, it's okay. It actually looks more natural that way. So just taking a little bit of paint, going right along, just brushing right along the top here. The wax is congealed now, so you don't have to worry about that at all. Some of my bacon pieces are not set in stone there, but that's all right. And I'm just going and pulling up where those ridges are on the sides, just to get the paint in there, because we want that to look pretty baked. And I'm not really worried about the paint that I'm getting on the pizza pan. It's not going to stay on this pan, and acrylic paint washes off of metal very quickly and easily. So you can just take this to the sink and wash that paint right off of it. Just remove the quiche first. Alright, so I've got that base coat painted. And then what I usually do for any kind of crust like this, I will shade the top with a raw sienna. This is the Liquitex color. Raw sienna is sort of a deeper brown color. And I use makeup sponges a lot for pie crusts, tart crusts, different things like that. I will wet this sponge and squeeze out a ton of this water. I'll squeeze it between some paper towels or a regular towel. Lynn's Crafting Creations from California. Welcome, welcome. I hope you're doing good this Monday. So I sort of use a stamping technique with this, with the makeup sponge, and I'll start by going around the top. I just get some paint on it and I blot it around. I know my rack is in the way, but everything is so hot I can't move it out of the way just yet. But I just blot the top here all the way around the ring, the top ring. I do these with pie crusts also. Just putting that extra color on there makes it look that much more baked. And then I go and sort of wipe, because I'm not getting in these little chambers. If I wipe it across there, it's just going on the raised portions. So I'm just going to wipe that around here, and I think you can maybe see how that's improving the color, making it darker. And just go around the whole outside there and make it look baked. And then when it's dry, like this other one here, you can actually take the sponge and go around the edges, make them look nice and toasty. You can do the whole bottom, and then the entire thing will get sealed probably in a day or so when this has a little bit more time to set up. The clay will dry that much more. I know the jelly wax isn't going to dry anymore, but the clay will. So I'll be able to paint the bottom, and then I usually spray seal the whole thing with some sort of acrylic sealer. I think I use the extra gloss, but this is the regular gloss of the Mod Podge. Krylon makes a really good sealer as well. The only other thing that I will do on here is just sort of give a little bit of a toasty look to this. I'll just take some of that raw sienna paint and go just a little bit on there, just dabbing it a little bit, and it'll make it look toasty. And I'll make sure that all of the pieces on here are glued down. When I went to remove the slice on this other one, I just used a flat knife, and I started by pulling through that rice paper, and I pulled through it until it was all cut open, and then I just sawed it. You can cut Model Magic with these kinds of knives. Don't use a serrated knife for this because you'll just shred it. But it was very easy with just a flat, sharp blade. That's one that I keep in the studio all the time. I don't ever use it in the kitchen. And then what I did was I just took some of the same yellow paint and the brown paint for the crust, and I pulled down some of that green and red just with a little bit of the same paint color to make it look like it was all down in there, which we know it's not, but it now looks like it is. So I have like 2 minutes left if anybody has any questions about our quiche. Like I said, this one's brighter in color. I will tone it down just a pinch with this, probably some of the yellow ochre will tone it down nicely. And I'll just blot a little bit of this on there, make it look just a little more toasted. I guess quiche gets toasted, but cooked in the oven. So I hope everybody has enjoyed this. I love being a part of Craft Around the Clock. It's a fun group. I appreciate being here very much, and I hope you enjoy what I do. If anybody ever has any questions, you can always message me if you're ever trying anything like this and you need some help. I am there. I love answering questions. You can find all my replays on YouTube. This will be available on Facebook for 30 days. You know, the 30-day rule, then it disappears. So you can find any old ones that I have on my YouTube. I have lots of other fake food creations on there. And if you're looking for something ever, you can check out my Etsy store, or I have a website, thepropchef.com. I have an email newsletter list where you can get all kinds of blog information and coupons and goodies and all that good stuff. So it's 1 o'clock. That's me. I'm Andy, the prop chef from Two Perspectives Studio. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye.